It's the 89th minute. Your palms are sweating, not a light dampness, but a cold. Slick moisture that makes it hard to grip your phone or the armrest of your chair. Your heart rate is 130 beats per minute. You haven't moved a muscle in 10 minutes, yet your body is reacting as if you're running a marathon. Then it happens. The net bulges. The world stands up. For a split second, you don't know your own name. You're screaming a primal, guttural sound you didn't know your vocal cords could produce. You're hugging a complete stranger to your left, or perhaps you're collapsing in your living room, tears hitting the carpet. To an outsider to the rational world, this is a clinical absurdity. They see it like a group of millionaires in polyester shirts kicking a sphere of synthetic leather into a rectangular frame. It has no impact on your mortgage, no effect on your health, and it won't put food on your table. But you and I know the truth isn't just a game, it is a life. Welcome to the Psyche Side. Today, we are performing a deep dive autopsy on the brain of the hardcore supporter. We aren't talking about casual fans who check the scores on Monday morning. We're talking about us, the ones who plan weddings around the game dates, the ones whose entire week is colored gray or gold based on a referee's decision on a Saturday afternoon. Why does our biology betray us like this? Why does our brain struggle to distinguish between a victory for our team and a victory for our own survival? In this exploration, we're going deep into the mechanics of identity fusion. We're going to look at why football is the last tribal refuge in a digital world, and how your neurochemistry is being hijacked by a 19-minute loop of dopamine and cortisol. By the end of this video, you'll understand that you don't just watch football, you live it, because your brain literally doesn't give you a choice. Buckle in. This is the science of the soul. This is the psychology of the beautiful game. To understand why you feel like you're on the pitch, we have to talk about mirror neurons. Discovered by neurophysiologists in the 1990s, these are a special class of brain cells that fire not just when you perform an action, but when you observe someone else doing it. When you see your star striker drop his shoulder to skip past a defender, your brain isn't just processing an image, it's simulating the movement. Your motor cortex is sending microsignals to your muscles. This is why you find yourself leaning your body when a player takes a shot, or why your leg twitches when they go for a tackle. Your brain, in its ancient primal wiring, literally cannot tell the difference between him and me. But the biology goes much deeper than just sympathy pains. Let's talk about the chemical cocktail in your bloodstream. In a landmark study during the 1994 World Cup, researchers took saliva samples from fans before and after a match. They found that for the winners, testosterone levels skyrocketed by nearly 30%. But for the losers, their levels plummeted. This is the winner-loser effect. Evolutionarily, testosterone is tied to social status and resource dominance. When your team wins, your body thinks you have climbed the social hierarchy. You feel more confident, more aggressive, and more attractive. When they lose, your body reacts as if you've been physically defeated in a hunt. Your self-worth isn't just bruised, biochemically suppressed. Then there's the stress. We've all felt that sickening knot in the stomach during a 90th minute corner. That is cortisol, the primary stress hormone. In 2008, during the European Championship, researchers in Germany noticed a staggering trend. On days when the national team played, hospital admissions for cardiac emergencies for men tripled. For the hardcore fan, a high-stakes match isn't entertainment. It's a prolonged state of positive vibes. positive stress. Your pupils dilate to take in more of the pitch. Your bronchioles and your lungs expand to take in more oxygen, and your liver releases glucose for a burst of energy. Your body is literally preparing for a physical fight that never comes. You are sitting in a plastic seat at the stadium, but biologically, you are in the trenches of a 10th century battlefield. This creates a unique physiological exhaustion. It's why you feel drained on a Sunday night after a big game, even if you've done nothing but sit on a sofa. You've put your heart and endocrine system through a 90-minute challenge. But why do we do it? Why do we voluntarily subject our hearts to this level of strain? Because the reward for the stress is the single most addictive substance known to man, the dopamine spike. Now we're going to look at how that chemistry turns a hobby into a life-defining identity. Have you ever noticed your language change after a match? If your team wins, you say, "We played brilliantly." If they lose, you might find yourself saying, "They were terrible today." This subtle shift in pronouns is the first clue to a profound psychological state known as identity fusion. In social psychology, there is a thin line between belonging to a group and fusing with it. When you belong to a club, you're a member. But when you are fused, the boundaries between your personal identity and the team's identity disappear. This isn't just a metaphor. Research into social identity theory suggests that, for the hardcore fan, the club serves as a social extension of the ego. When the team is insulted, you feel insulted. When the team succeeds, your brain registers it as a personal achievement. But why do we do this? Why do we tether our happiness to something we cannot control? Evolutionarily, being an isolated person alone was a death sentence. Our ancestors survived by being part of a tribe. In the modern fractured world where traditional pillars like local community or religious institutions have faded, football has stepped into the void, provides the three things the human psyche craves most: certainty, continuity, and connection. This is continuity. The world changes, jobs are lost, relationships end, but the club remains. It is a permanent part of your identity in an impermanent world. However, there is a dark side to this fusion. Psychologists use two specific terms to describe how we manage our self-esteem through our team. The first is Burgeoner, basking in reflected glory. This is why you wear your team's jersey the morning after a big win. You want the world to see your association with the winner because it raises your perceived social value. The second is corfing or cutting off reflected failure. This is a defensive mechanism. After a humiliating 4-0 loss, you might find yourself avoiding sports news, hiding your jersey in the laundry, and distancing yourself from the they to protect your own fragile psyche from the fallout of defeat. But for the truly hardcore, the Psyche Side, viewers, corfing is impossible. You can't cut off the failure because the fusion is too deep. You don't just feel disappointed, you feel diminished. This leads us to a startling realization. To the hardcore fan, football isn't an escape from life. It is the lens through which life is experienced. The we is broken, the I feels broken too. And if you think that's intense, wait until we look at the dopamine trap. The reason why the most painful losses are actually the ones that keep you coming back for more. If football was purely about joy, most of us would have quit a long time ago. Think about it. Statistically, for every one champion, there are 20 teams that fail. For every 90th minute winner, there's a fan on the receiving end feeling a soul-crushing void. So why do we come back? The answer lies in a psychological principle called intermittent reinforcement. In the 1950s, psychologist B.F. Skinner discovered that if you give a lab rat a treat every time it presses a lever, it eventually gets bored. But if you make the reward unpredictably, the lever only works sometimes, the rat becomes obsessed. It will press that lever until it collapses from exhaustion. This is the dopamine trap of football. If your team won 5-0 every single week, the dopamine hit would eventually flatten. But because you might lose to a bottom-tier team on Tuesday, it might beat a giant on Saturday, your brain stays in a state of high-alert craving. The uncertainty is the drug. This happens in the ventral striatum, the brain's reward center. Dopamine isn't actually about pleasure. It's about anticipation. The high isn't the goal itself, it's the moments leading up to the goal. That's why the split second the ball is in the air is more chemically intense than the 10 minutes after it hits the net. But what about the agony of defeat? Why does a loss feel like a physical bereavement? Neurologically, the brain processes social rejection and team failure in the same regions where it processes physical pain, the anterior cingulate cortex. When your team loses a match, your brain isn't just sad. It is sending signals that mimic a physical wound. This leads to what psychologists call the empathy gap. When you're in the cold state Monday to Friday, you promise yourself you won't let the game ruin your weekend. But when you're in the hot state match day, your rational prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that says it's just a game, literally shuts down. You are at the mercy of your limbic system. For the hardcore fan, the pain is actually part of the price of admission. Without the agony of defeat, the ecstasy of triumph has no value. We are all, in a sense, addicted to the contrast. We endure the 1-0 losses in the freezing rain because it primes our brain for the one moment of glory that might be months or years away. But how do we cope with this lack of control? How does the human mind try to fix a game it isn't even playing? That brings us to the strange, irrational world of rituals and superstitions. You know the feeling. Your team is defending a 1-goal lead in the 88th minute. You're sitting on the far left of the sofa, your legs crossed in a very specific way. You want to go to the kitchen for a glass of water, but you can't. Because the last time you stood up, the opposition scored. Logically, you know that your seating position in a living room in Manchester cannot possibly affect a player's ball striking in Madrid. But in that moment, logic is a foreign language. This is the world of the illusion of control. In psychology, this is known as non-contingent reinforcement. It's a glitch in our pattern recognition software. If you wore a specific blue shirt the day your team won a match, your brain creates a false correlation. It stores that shirt as a winning variable. This isn't just quirky behavior. It's a sophisticated defense mechanism against anxiety. Football is a game of high stakes and zero control for the spectator. That lack of agency is terrifying to the human brain. By performing rituals, wearing the lucky kit, sitting in the same seat, or following the exact same route to the stadium, we create a psychological buffer. We are tricking our brains into believing we are participants, not just observers. This brings us to the most powerful ritual of all, the stadium experience. When you enter a stadium, you undergo a process called de-individuation. Your personal self, the accountant, the student, the parent dissolves. You become part of a collective consciousness. This is why perfectly normal people find themselves screaming insults at a referee, or chanting in perfect unison with 50,000 others in a crowd. Your sense of individual responsibility decreases, and your group identity takes the wheel. It's a form of social hypnotism. The ritual of the chant, the synchronized clap, the shared roar, these aren't just loud noises. They are ancient rhythmic tools that synchronize the heart rates of everyone in the stands. These rituals provide us with a sense of sacredness. For the hardcore fan, the stadium isn't just a building, it's a cathedral. The pitch is hallowed ground. And the rituals we perform are our way of communicating with the gods of football. But what happens when the game ends? When the lights go out and the crowd disperses? Is this obsession healthy, or are we all just losing our minds for a ball? We've looked at the mirror neurons that make us mimic the players, the testosterone that surges through our veins, and the identity fusion that makes a club crest feel like a second skin. We've admitted to the irrationality of our lucky socks and the dopamine trap that keeps us coming back for more, even when it hurts. So, after all this deep diving, what is the verdict? Is the hardcore football fan suffering from a collective delusion? Some might call it a mental illness or a waste of emotional energy. But they are looking at the mechanics and missing the soul. The truth is, we live for football because it is one of the last places in the modern world where we are allowed to be truly, unapologetically human. We live in a society that often demands we stay composed, productive, and rational. But for 90 minutes, all of those social contracts are torn up. Football provides a safe arena for the highest highs and the lowest lows. It allows us to experience the raw, primal emotions of our ancestors, the thrill of the hunt, the brotherhood of the tribe, the grief of defeat, all without the actual life and death stakes of the ancient world. It is, as the saying goes, the most important of the least important things. On the Psyche Side, we believe that being a fan isn't just about the sport, it's about the connection. In a world that is becoming increasingly lonely and digitized, football is the great connector. It bridges the gap between generations, between social classes, and between strangers. When you stand in that crowd, you aren't an individual anymore. You are part of a story that started long before you were born and will continue long after you are gone. Your brain isn't broken. It's doing exactly what it was designed to do, seeking out a tribe, chasing a purpose, and feeling the electric spark of being alive. So the next time someone asks you why you care so much about 22 men chasing a ball, don't try to explain the tactics. Don't show them the table. Just tell them that you're practicing the most ancient form of human psychology there is. You're not just a fan. You're a participant in the world's greatest theater of the mind. If this deep dive resonated with you, if you felt that cortisol spike or that identity fusion, hit the like button and subscribe to the Psyche Side. We're dedicated to uncovering the why behind the things we love. Now, I want to hear from you. What was the exact moment you realized you were fused with your club? Was it a specific goal? A specific loss? Tell your story in the comments below. I'll be down there reading them. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next deep dive.